Welcome to Life's a Coach. Our mission is to empower individuals like you to take charge of your life, discover your purpose, and elevate your performance to new heights. Each week, we'll be diving into engaging discussions, introducing you to valuable tools from the coaching world, and giving you different perspectives on individual development. Whether you're seeking clarity, motivation, or a fresh perspective, we've got you covered. Again, welcome to Life's a Coach, where the power to transform your life begins now.
Right.
A lot of people came into this room and now they left.
Welcome to Life's a Coach. Today we've got Alma, Sofia, Eric, and myself, Avril. And Sofia, do you want to tell us what we're doing today?
So today we are putting you and Eric on the spot. And me and Almar will come up with some questions and see what comes out of it.
Okay.
Let's follow the yellow brick road.
Follow the yellow brick road. What kind of questions are these?
Let's see what comes. I didn't prepare much, but I'm positive that we will come with things. Almar, did you thought about anything to start?
Well, I'll tell you what I would like to know is that you said you didn't prepare much. So what did you prepare?
Do you really want me to mention?
Totally do. I do.
She's putting you on the spot.
Yeah, I prepared to tell you, all of you, that this is our time to meet. These are the people that are on the Life Coach. This is what I prepared. And this is the topic for today.
Questions.
But some things that came into my mind while thinking it. The question that mostly came to my mind, Avril, was I wasn't in the session where you did the opposite. So you and Eric asking Almar and Jean questions about.
Actually, it was just Avril.
Yeah.
It was just Avril. Oh, I thought it was both of you.
One-man show.
One-man show. One man for two girls.
Literally.
But one of the things that you had on your head is, why do women go together to the bathroom?
The restroom, yeah.
And the restroom, thank you. And one thing is, why are men curious about this?
Oh.
I'll let you go, Avril.
Okay, so for our listeners out there, we had an episode where I was representing the men out there and asking Jean and Alma certain questions that men are curious about, like just the little things that men are curious about, why women do them and how women work. And we tackle topics from the very surface level to deep questions. And one of the questions that came up was that, like, why do ladies go to the bathroom together, or what's in a lady's handbag? You know, those little questions. So today is a flip side episode where the ladies should have prepared some questions for us.
I did.
And I'm glad today Eric is here too. So we got two guys here. It's not a one-man show, as Alma said it. And just for the record, before we start, I also just want to say that a lot of the answers and the things that Eric and I are going to say are either going to be general or specific to us, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that this is what it's like for everybody, or this is what all men are like, all guys like. So some things we might just tackle it from a general perspective, and some of it from our own experience and own opinions. Thought I just put that as a disclaimer. Yeah.
Thank you, Avril. That's very important to say.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
All right. Awesome. So is that the first question?
Yeah. And when I say that I didn't prepare, it's because preparing for me, and Eric will know this for sure, is like having everything, like all the questions, all the possibilities and everything. So this is why, because I have some questions in mind, of course. So, but let's go with the flow. I think that also it's that this is important, and also it shows a little of our side as coaches. Also, when we ask questions, even if we prepare before, we never know what the the person in front of us will come up with. And that's very important for us to keep an open mind and to keep the flow and not be very strict to the structure that we have.
Yeah.
But yeah, Avril, that's my first question. Why are men curious about women going together to the bathroom?
It's just something that we guys don't do that, you know? So,
Exactly.
like, you don't say, yo, Bob, let's go to the restroom, yo. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. Okay, so for me, I grew up in a culture where it's not like that, right? I grew up in Africa, I grew up in Zimbabwe, and it wasn't the etiquette that ladies, when they get up, they go to the restroom together, at least when I was growing there. So it was more of a Western thing for me, right? So I only initially used to see that on TV, right? But having moved out here, and it's all of those things like, oh, okay. So even at my adult age, I was at a place of like, oh, I wonder why they do that. And I had little assumptions why I thought it was, but when the topic came up, I was like, okay, we get to ask these questions. Let's find out. But I think it's just we're just curious because we don't do it, so we kind of want to know why ladies do it.
And what
I
comes
don't
to
know.
your mind on the why? So you were saying that maybe it's
Well, I was on the episode with Alma and Jean, so I already got the reasons. I know.
so
So
Eric.
let's put it on Eric.
Well, coming in cold here, so
Uh,
but you know what comes to my mind, and I think it's the overarching topic, right? Is I guess maybe, and again, painting with a very broad brush, fundamental differences between men and women, I guess, right? Males and females. I think first of all, men, on the whole, perhaps are maybe a little bit more egotistical. Meaning, you know, if you're of a group of women and, you know, that group of women chooses to go to the bathroom, they're like, oh, maybe they're talking about me. Do you know what I mean? So, and that's just pure honesty. Do you know what I mean? Like, why are they going? Do you know what I mean? Like, why do they need to go all together? So, but also, I think it you know, to the again, going back to the nature of men and women, I think, you know, I believe that maybe historically, this might be the reason, but you know, women are much more kind of, they go maybe a little bit more in tribes, they go in like groups, a little bit more than men, right? When you think of men, maybe you think more of the lone wolf. You know, in the hunting days, perhaps they would go out, but they would literally go out more as individuals hunting for their families, whereas the women would stay together with the children, but in groups, perhaps in huts together. And, you know, that's how they lived, right? It was a lot more about the communication and the, you know, the
with this.
connection. It was laughing because I've gone much deeper than he thought I would. But,
Really, I love it.
Yes, me too. I love
but
it.
you understand where I'm coming from, right? Because I think that's just a natural inclination. I think, and again, not all women, because I think culture has changed, right? The you know, the corporate environment and things like that. There's a lot of you know, for example, you know, Alma, I know you like you know, have worked with a lot of businesses and stuff like that, and perhaps, you know, the new view of a woman in business, for example, is one of like, you know, that same like lone wolf kind of needs to be strong and firm and things like that. But I think that's actually a strength of women, right? Is that ability to be able to not only just communicate, but when you think of the, you know, I know
I think inspiring.
masculine and feminine. No, I'm talking about the masculine and feminine now, right? Masculine and feminine. When you think about that, the female qualities are that of nurturing, but also the ability to be able to use intuition and to communicate and to, you know, of feeling and I feel as if that, you know, feeling of, you know, just having almost a timeout to go to the bathroom to kind of almost have a touch base and be like, hey, how is this going kind of thing, just as a group. Maybe that's how. And
Yeah,
again, that's just
right.
my.
How
I
can
have
we
no
support
idea.
each other during whatever's happening out there? Do you need any
Absolutely.
support?
Yeah.
Just,
Whereas I think men on the other hand, like part of the question was why do men not do that? I think Sophia asked is I think that we're just too egotistical to even ask off a friend, hey, let's say if you like a girl in another group, for example, and you guys are hanging out, and you'd never ask a guy friend, hey, I don't know, maybe some close friends, but is she into me? Do you know, kind of thing? It's like that would be maybe deemed as a kind of a weakness in some forms, right? So I always talk about, men relationships that I'm trying to create are much deeper than the usual male relationships which are a mile wide and an inch deep, right? You hardly know anything about that male. You see no vulnerability. So yeah, that's my answer. It went kind of everywhere, but
I think your answer deserves this.
Almar, shoot your question to the guys.
me, no, just that was really what Eric said. Just made me think of a of a of a meme that I had seen on I don't know where, but about a man, two men spend the whole day golfing together, the whole day, and the husband goes back home and his wife, asks, so, how's he doing? Because he had just gone through this big life transition, and the guy's like, fine, he hit a 10. I mean, like nothing at all to do with the big transition in his life. He knew zero. They just spent the whole day together golfing. That was it, no sharing at all. It's deeper, but that's the gist. But am I up to ask a question?
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, this is a good one. This is one that I think every woman is curious about. I think on a unconscious level, all women know exactly what it means. We all do. However, it's still so jarring that I know there's a lot of listeners who really would like to hear from the male's perspective. Why do men ghost?
Ooh.
I went first the last time, Eric.
whenever as a gentleman, I'll let you go.
Now you are both ghosting the situation.
Oh.
The screen is going to go off, right? We lost April and we lost
Oh my days.
That's a
Oh
mic.
my day.
Oh my. That is a mic drop right there. That is a mic.
Good one, Sophia. Good one. We're
That
both
is
ghosting the
hilarious.
conversation.
You can't even see me on camera.
We shrink under the table.
I love that question, Almar. Love
Yeah,
that.
that's a hard one. Why do men ghost?
Granted, I know women do it too, but
Mhm.
Have you seen the movie He's Just Not That Into You?
yes,
I mean, that's the easy answer.
yeah.
But like I said before, I would go back to the fact that men are no, let's be honest here. Like a lot of men have not developed the communication skills to first of all, and I've learned this recently from failing in this part of my life, they failed to create the communication skills to let people down and to tell people, early on, like to set realistic expectations and to set boundaries, right? With regards to where a certain relationship or friendship is going. And I think men are masters at, not for any particular reason, rather than just keeping up appearances. They're very good at keeping up appearances and in that way leading people on. And again, I'm painting with a very broad brush, but I think it comes back to the inability of a lot of men to upset people, right? To tell people, what, being the nice guy, I think being the nice guy is commonplace for a lot of men. So the ghosting appears when they feel uncomfortable with a certain situation and it's getting too deep, too quickly, or too soon, and a woman perhaps escalates and the man isn't ready, then it's easier to just take themselves out of the situation rather than to backtrack, because I think ghosting only happens when if the expectations for both people are the same and balanced, then um, you know I don't think ghosting takes place. It's when the expectations, let's say, of the woman is higher for whatever reason, and the man doesn't bring those expectations back down again, right? And then for whatever reason the woman tries to escalate with regards to the interaction or where this is going, or asking one of those questions, one of those deep questions, do you ever want to get married, do you want to have kids, or what is this relationship, right? One of those types of questions. I think that just scares a lot of men off, because it's easier to just kind of to jump out. What
Well,
do you
I
think?
think that if one of the questions is, do you want to get married? You must have had quite a few months or time together, but then just to disappear after that is a little shocking to hear. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I've heard of it for sure.
wow.
I've never
I
done that.
mean, I would say definitely that's one of the reasons. The reasons you mentioned, Eric, is one of the reasons why ghosting happens. But like any situation, there are many reasons why. Like you say, though the topic is kind of, the question is directed to men, but it is a general question that applies to men and women too. It can. I would say, first and foremost, I'll jump on what Eric said, that it's also in relation to being able to communicate as well. All right. Sometimes the inability of a guy communicating what he's feeling and thinking. All right. And also, not just about it being about expectation, but I know I'm in my 40s right now, and the way I communicate and see, and even let's say if I was to start going on dating apps or start dating again, the way I would handle is totally different from when I was in my 20s. So we're also talking from a whole range of men who are still immature and men who are mature, and their reasons for ghosting, if they do, will be different, right? You can easily have someone say, "Oh man, she's too much." I was talking to her for just 3 days, and she started telling me her whole story, and I'm not ready for that. That's too much, so I'm out. So there could be different reasons guys do it, but ultimately, I feel personally, I just think it's not being, and I don't want to generalize, but not being man enough to say what you want to say, even if it's going to disappoint the person you meeting. Like, hey, I don't think this is going anywhere, because this is not what I thought it was, or this is not what I want, so let's call it quits here. I think that ghosting is more like the coward way of leaving a situation, in my because yeah.
But to be fair, saying, "Oh, this is not what I thought," or "I'm not feeling it," is also a really hard conversation to have.
It is.
Say
It
that,
is. It is. So,
that's a big one.
like I said, someone who's either immature or not good at communicating, that's the easy way out, right? Easy way out of getting out of a situation, or easy way out of getting out of a conversation that needs to be had. That's kind
I,
of.
yeah, I think you've both explained it really well. Just for the sake of the listener who might be hurting over a recent ghosting, what do do you have, some like really good advice to give to that
For
person?
sure.
Yeah, from a
Yeah,
guy's
I think
point.
I do. It's just to remind that person that it's not really about them.
It's not about you.
It's not about you. Don't take it personal. If anything, you've dodged a bullet. And I mean that sincerely, because it's that whole thing of like, if I go cheat on my woman, it's not about my woman. It's my issues that are making me cheat. Right? It's my stuff I haven't resolved, or my something in my character, personality, whatever. But it's not her, so she should not take it personal. So in that regard, if someone goes to you, like, okay, you dodged the bullet, because if they're not able to either have, have deep conversation or the hard conversations with you as you're just beginning the relationship, then you know that when real life starts happening, that's the kind of man who just shut down or recluse and don't step up to face things that need to be faced and discussed and done. So don't take it personal. It's not about you, and you might have dodged yourself a bullet. That's what I would say.
It's lovely. I think this is going really, really well. I like this. How about you, Eric?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Avril, for sure. That type of interaction, that kind of behavior is probably a warning sign, right? That it's much more about that person not being able to, deal with those types of conversations, those difficult conversations. But I would also, a lot of another contentious issue when it comes to dating is, don't get too deep too soon, right? And don't, have those types of conversations early. I wholeheartedly disagree with that, right? If you are looking to date and you're looking to be in a relationship with somebody, if you're ready for that part of your life, which is a completely separate discussion, by the way, right? You need to build a relationship with yourself first, be comfortable in your own body, and then obviously be ready for that. I think that you need to set the expectations and your boundaries early on, right? And you do that by, first of all, letting them know what you're looking for, but also finding out what they're looking for, right? And like being very direct with those types of questions, right? And again, it doesn't need to be, are you looking to get married or whatever, but yeah, like what exactly are you looking for right now, right? I think that's a really good question, because then, through those answers, you can gauge, is this the type of person who has done the work, first of all, right? Have they done the work on themselves to be in a healthy relationship, right? I think we need to have those types of discussions earlier on. Maybe that's not first date kind of chat, right? But maybe the third or the fourth, right, before it gets too serious, we should probably be having those types of conversations to identify, okay, is this a person that I want to, show some vulnerability with, right? I think if we would have those conversations earlier on, that's just my inclination anyway. You know me, right? I wear my heart on my sleeve. I'm just very open. But I think, a lot of people guard themselves. And I think that, that actually works out to hurt them more, right? Because they're not open to showing themselves more and putting themselves out there with regards to what their expectations for any kind of relationship is. So I would just be open and honest, and ask questions early, right?
Yeah.
Sophia, anything?
I'm interested in flipping the coin a little bit now and asking the guys, not for advice, but as you went through our listeners that were probably in this situation, but I'm curious to hear you on the listeners that are on the other side. So what do men want women to do, considering attraction, dating, and not only in dating apps, although it is a thing now, but on meeting someone on the street, for example? Because there's a little bit of the history around, so men should be the one to go first and talk to you first. But honestly, I don't think that that's the thing now. I think or something is happening with men or something is happening with women. So on your perspective of being a man, how do you see it? What would you expect if you see someone that you really enjoy? Like now we're talking physically because you've never talked before. But if you are not willing to go to that lady, what do you advise for the ladies to do?
So let me clarify. Are you saying what do men? Can you repeat the question again? If you can
How would
clarify it.
men would like to be approached? I think that I went a long way to just say this.
Ooh, how would men
Wow.
like to be
I think
approached?
men being approached is
Is that
that
the
would just be
dream?
nice in itself. It would just be nice in itself. Honestly, like I think that would often just kind of clear up a lot of the apprehension, I think, on men, especially like again, with everything that's going on in media over the last couple of years with regards to being too aggressive and things like that. I don't know what Avril's thoughts are, but first step is if a woman was to come up to me and have a conversation, I would be taken aback in a good way. Do you know what I mean? I think that would, I'm not, I'm, I think that's very sexy, to be honest. Like that shows a lot of confidence, and I think that level of not only confidence, but for a woman to flip the script almost, it's definitely not normal. I know Jean's story of what is it, the piece of the orange?
Oh, the
I mean,
orange.
giving it, yeah. I mean, do you know what I mean? Like that.
A
That
modern
kind of
love
stuff doesn't
story.
happen normally, right?
Um, I think okay. So there's something about a woman that exudes confidence, right? She may not be the prettiest in the room or the most attractive, but if she just carries herself with confidence, there's something, at least for me, there's something that's attractive about that. So I was just saying that in relation to what Eric just said about confidence. However, if I was to generalize this, I would say it really is. Okay, I'll answer this generally, then I will speak for myself too, right? So, but generally, I think it really is a matter of preference and the way people grew up. Because there's some people who believe in chivalry, and some people believe that man should be the one who goes and asks lady. And some people actually come from an era where if a woman's the one who approaches you, then she's shifty or dodgy, or they'll call her all sorts of different names, right? It's all different filters that we have. But in the age that we are living in now, I mean, if you like me and you come across the room, you see me at the table or in a bar or whatever, and you can say, hey, hi, and you strike up a conversation, that's also pretty cool. I have no judgments with that personally. I'm like, okay, you know what you want and you're going to try to get it, and it's also, it does flip the script. So it's also intriguing. I find it fascinating, you know.
Thank you.
So for me, I'm like, I welcome it. I
100%.
welcome it. No judgments on that.
But I really
know
think
this. So go on.
Go ahead,
Go on.
Eric. Go ahead.
I want to flip the script. I had an interesting conversation. I know I told you guys I went to Vegas, right? And as you know, I'm newly single. I'm not looking for anything right now. I'm not looking for a relationship. But as I've told you guys already, one thing I am looking for is I'm looking to have conversations with people who are on the same frequency as me, right? Who have depth, and I find that making friends and finding those types of friendships are important to me, right? So I'm out in Vegas, and there's that whole, do you know what I mean? Like feeling of, do you know what I mean? Approaching a woman, right? Because a woman usually thinks if you're approaching them that, you're into them or you want a relationship or whatever, right? And so I always overthink those types of things. And despite my persona on this podcast, I'm actually, I'd describe myself as an ambivert. I'm definitely not an extrovert. I'm more of an introvert than an extrovert. With regards to, especially when I'm out, I'm much more reserved to myself. If I know somebody, I'll have a very deep conversation with them. But if I don't, I'm very much conscious of their space, conscious of how they perceive me before I get into that type of conversation. So we were at a casino, I think it was, and we saw three women walking past, and I was coming out of the bathroom and my friend was just looking at them walk past. And like I just tapped him on the butt and said, "Hey, you're gonna go and talk to them?" And he's just like, "No, it's okay." So I went, and they're walking, by the way, and this is completely out of character, but I'm always like an overthinker of like, oh my God, like they're not going to, you know what I mean? Like they're going to think that I'm being, you know, too, too forward or aggressive or whatever. But I start like walking and running alongside them. And I said, "Hey, how you guys doing?" Do you know what I mean? And first of all, they were kind of taken aback. One of the girls like had like 2 coffees in her hands, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm Eric." So I gave her a fist bump. So she kind of like, it was kind of really awkward to start with because it's just me, 3 girls in the middle of a casino who are walking probably to their hotel. So like, so they're like, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" And then I think they were really uncomfortable to start with, but they asked me a question saying, "Hey, like, what's your name?" Do you know what I mean? And I was like, "Hey, I'm Eric. How are you?" And then kind of like they all got a little bit more comfortable. One of my friends came along, and then we had a great conversation, right? One of the girls, they're into like, what's the guy who does like Joe Dispenza, right? So like she was like, reading a book. Like I saw one of her books. She's like reading Joe Dispenza's book. So I'm like, we completely hit it off. Do you know what I mean? With regards to like, I was talking about, I'm a life coach. I'm looking to start my business. I'm deep into this stuff and that stuff. So like, it was a beautiful conversation. We were literally there for like 30 minutes, just having a conversation. And then, it came to that conversation of, like, I can't remember what it was, but someone must have made a joke of, "Hey, we've been standing here for like 30 minutes. Do you know what I mean? Do you guys want to hang out later?" kind of thing. And they were, I just basically asked, like, what was the point where you felt comfortable enough to continue having a conversation with me rather than like kind of just pushing me away? Because I think that's a skill for a woman as well, right? Because, women probably definitely much more than men, right? They get approached often, right? So they need to be able to do that. So they were like, to be honest, I think it was your energy, first of all, right? Yeah. Like, and like, so like, and they kind of went into a little bit more because a man had approached them the night before. And it's also about space as well, because the man had like kind of come very close. So I think that feeds into the energy as well, not being too forward, but matching the energy, also coming across as, you don't want or need anything. You're just kind of want to have a conversation. So I kind of asked them that question, what is, what would you feel comfortable with if a man was to approach you? What would keep you invested in that conversation? Let's say to talk to someone for like 30 minutes, for example, right? That's a question for you guys, because this is something that I'm going to ask every woman I see now, because I think guys want to know that, right? It's like, how do you want to be approached? In what way do you want to be approached in order for you to feel comfortable, right? Like, and in what scenario or situation?
Eric, you just like you nailed it. You said it was energy, and it's true. You can't lie. It's like whatever your intention is, it is there, regardless of what's coming out of your mouth.
I love that. Just say that again. Say that again, Carlos, please. No, honestly, they need to hear it. They need to hear it.
No, you can't lie. You can't fake it. Your energy. It's your energy says it all. Whatever's coming out of your mouth, that's what I'm not hearing. It's what are you bringing? What are your true intentions? And you were spurred on by the courage of your friends. It's funny how guys always act a little differently when they're with their friends, huh? There's a little more.
That was my next question, Almar.
Yeah.
You just hit the spot.
Yeah, there is safety. And I think for women too. I know for me,
women too. For women
yeah,
too,
absolutely.
for sure.
There is safety in numbers. And there's something about that collective energy, and you saw your friend, you're like, hey, he didn't have the courage to do anything about it, but you had no investment at all other than supporting your friend. So you went over super friendly and open with good intentions, and voila, look how well it was received.
Interesting.
I think that's my point. I don't know.
I want to highlight that fact that you said in groups as well. So I want any man listening to this podcast, that's an important one, that perhaps allows women to feel more comfortable. but also even more important is the energy that you're coming in with, right? Like, I think women are very intuitive with regards to reading, interactions, reading emotions, right? So that's super important. Avril, thoughts?
We're out of time.
Oh, damn.
No. You guys continue.
Probably a part two, man.
We gotta have a part 2 to this one. Yeah,
Yeah,
this
this is
didn't
just
have
the
enough time.
beginning. Yeah, this is just the beginning of a good conversation for sure.
Indeed.
100%.
So, any last words, ladies,
I
on
think
today's
Sophia.
topic?
Expecting for the part 2 of this. Really?
Expectations for the
Yeah,
next one. All right.
definitely.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you for joining us on Life's a Coach.
Oh my goodness, this is cliffhanger.
Yes. I'm sure you want to hear the second part of this. Join us next time. Um, today we had Eric, Sophia, Alma, and myself, Avril. And we'll see you next time.
All
Thank
right,
you,
thanks
guys.
guys.
Thank
You guys are great.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Life's a Coach, where our conversations aim to empower and support your personal growth. Until next time, remember that personal development is ongoing, so keep exploring, keep learning, and keep living a life that aligns with your true purpose. Take care, and we'll see you on the next episode of Life's a Coach.